We are truly in the endgame of Digimon Adventure 2020 with episode 66, the final battle between the Great Catastrophe's true form and the Chosen Children's mega-level Digimon assembled for the first time Avengers style. But of course, it wasn't just that. We also got a remix/retelling of the Our War Game finale with children all over the world watching the battle and lending their power to help in the creation of Omegamon. And my personal favorite surprise of the episode, the moment where Devimon and Skull Knightmon save TK, Kari, Seraphimon, and Ophanimon. So welcome to the Digino episode 66 review. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, do me a favor and subscribe. Yes, the show is going to be over next week, but the future is bright for Digimon and for this channel. We've got Digimon Ghost Game starting up, and we'll be covering that show here, obviously, but we're also going to be going into the post-adventure arc of this channel, where I come out with these top 10 episode videos, top 10 moments, best changes, 1999 versus 2020, and of course, an entire series review for Digimon Adventure 2020, episode 1 to episode 67. So you don't want to miss all that. If one or two of my videos have brought you joy during the last year and a half or kept you company at all, the best way you could return the favor would be to subscribe. It's super easy, and can you imagine if we hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year? We could do it, I'm just saying. Okay, but no more channel promotion, it's episode time. The Mega Digimon Assemble, and this is just a dream come true for kids who grew up on 1999 Digimon, wondering where the other Megas were, and maybe only seeing them based on the trading card game if they were lucky. The animation looks great throughout the episode too. I really don't feel like they were cutting corners or anything. The Megas charge towards the Great Catastrophe itself. It starts firing back, which leads Joe to state that this thing is fighting back, so it must feel threatened by our power, and we're clearly doing something right. We then get this sequence of the kids learning to fight with their Megas in unison, which feels great. Up until now, if you think about it, most times a Mega Digimon appears, they're the only ones on screen with a few rare exceptions, but now there are 8 Megas with their own unique powers fighting, but also trying not to step on each other's toes. There's this great scene where Vikemon creates a blizzard, and then Mimi and Rosemon get super cold, and Vikemon goes, well, I can't really be holding back right now, and they all agree that, yeah, that's true. Just really awesome stuff. We see the human world being devastated by the void cracks in the sky, and some of these visuals are really stunning. I loved seeing that the children around the world do appear to be able to witness the fight through the portals in the sky as if they were, monitor displays. I do wish the battle was on Earth, not in the void. I'm happy to see the world in peril and the kids witnessing the fights, but I do wish some of the fight was in a cityscape, kaiju battle style. I wanted to see Omegamon like the size of an Evangelion fighting the Great Catastrophe like it's one of the weirdest angels in Eva. Maybe next week that'll happen, though it looks like the final battle will continue to take place inside the void once again. At a certain point, we crack through the first layer of the Great Catastrophe, only to realize how much more power this thing has. It manages to erase Izzy, Mimi, Joe, Sora, and their partners, and they exist in this ghost-like form between worlds. Miraculously, Tai, Matt, TK, Kari, and their Digimon are still fighting, with the Holy Digimon powering up Metal Garurumon and War Greymon to produce that kind of holy aura around them. Earlier in the episode, when all the Megas were gathered, I was thinking that obviously Omegamon is welcome, but the fusion form created with the power of all the Megas should really kind of resemble a Megazord style fusion that has all the visual components of all the Megas, not just Matt and Ty's, right? And in some ways it feels like if the Omegamon design didn't already exist, we would get that in this show, but with the other kids defeated and in this ghost form, they do have some kind of plot justification for why Omegamon does only resemble War Greymon and Metal Garurumon. Bit of a tangent, but I was just imagining a world where the final fusion form resembles all the kids' Megas. Oh well. Suddenly these orbs of light reach the other children in their ghost forms, and we see that feather that has appeared whenever TK and Kari lent their light and hope in past battles. Thousands of these little orbs flow out of the human world and into the void, and we come to realize TK and Kari's feathers and lights were just 2 of the lights, but there are millions of other children out there capable of the same thing. It's not to say that TK and Kari aren't special, but rather all of these children are special, which I do quite like. As if it wasn't enough like our war game already though, Izzy actually gets emails and messages from the kids on his computer monitor, which did give me chills. I'm basically of the opinion that our war game is the best Digimon story that exists, and so I don't look at this as like a ripoff or lazy writing or anything. This current series has always been about remixing past ideas that worked, and this is a great remix of that iconic story that was told 20 years ago. I do think if this was the old days of Digimon, a bunch of those kids watching the fight would be Easter eggs / cameos of like, I don't know, Rio and the 02 kids, or even the Ghost Game team, but these days Digimon is a little more reluctant to do those awesome cameos, so oh well. Tentomon has a brilliant line here where he says, maybe this phenomenon of the kids Light reaching the battlefield, maybe this only happened because the Great Catastrophe caused the world's borders to collapse. Hasn't this great crisis also brought a chance to overcome it? I'm kind of a sucker for a villain's own evil plan also being its downfall, and this worked quite well for me. When we talked about the plot of the show last week, about how the good side found the chosen children on Earth and the bad side found the internet, some of you shared in the comments that you found that a bit cheesy and like it had big boomer energy for the writers to just say internet bad, when it is much more complex than that. The reality is the internet is just a tool, and it's also caused some incredibly good things for humanity, not just bad negative energy. So the show didn't explicitly say this, maybe it will next week, but we got to see here with the messages reaching Izzy's laptop that the internet's negativity did power the Great Catastrophe, but it was also the network that allowed the messages and positive energy to gather to create Omegamon, our savior, I guess. But just before we get to see Omegamon, we get perhaps my favorite surprise in the episode, because a lot of this stuff, while awesome, we could see it kind of coming. What I did not expect this week was Don Devimon and Skull Knightmon to actually appear in the final battle to save Seraphimon and Ophanimon from the Great Catastrophe. Light and darkness coexist as two sides of the same coin in this series, with the Great Catastrophe threatening to offset that balance entirely. And so to have Devimon and Skull Knightmon, who have been these dark mirror forms of the holy Digimon Patamon and Tailmon, come out for one last cameo and save in the final battle was pretty awesome. Skull Knightmon was obviously much quieter than Devimon, but having those two back was a great callback to the first half of the show, in my opinion. Devimon says, "The light of hope glows bright. The whim of us shadows must do the same. This is the answer you reached, old friend." I really love this alliance that we've been seeing for the last few episodes, like when Devimon warned TK and Patamon about the Great Catastrophe's power. And so with that, between the save and the new energy the kids of Earth provided, we were able to power up the last two fighters into Omegamon. This gives Omegamon his own evolution sequence, which is a huge surprise and a great touch, since he usually only really appears out of an orb of light, even in the Digimon movie. There's this amazing orchestral version of Break the Chain that rules, but there's also the awesome realization that the symbol that's appeared on the Digimon Adventure 2020 logo all this time was supposed to represent Omegamon. Do I feel dumb for not realizing this sooner? Yes. Was I super stoked when I connected the dots? Yes. And then we end the episode with Omegamon, Taichi, and Yamato flying towards the enemy for the final fight. The episode 67 preview is being very secretive, but I still think there's hope that we see Omegamon Alter S, simply because we've seen Omegamon since episode 2 and even in the opening animation, and so we went through the journey of working our way back up to Omegamon, but the shonen storytelling would dictate that we see one final surprise in the finale. Similar to Try being about building Omegamon again after they weren't able to hold its form for long in movie 1, then in the final minutes of movie 6 we get the merciful mode. We went on this journey to be able to understand how Omegamon works and how to summon him, and now we should get one last surprise maybe in the final few minutes. Since we already have Blitzgreymon and Crescarurumon, we already got all these slide evolutions in this series like Godramon and Holydramon. It only feels right that we get one final form change, and fingers crossed it's got Naoto Shishida from Dragon Ball Super and One Piece delivering us some beautiful, smooth, and jaw-dropping animation for the final showdown. This was, for me, overall a fantastic episode, just a total popcorn spectacle. It also has the luxury of not being the finale, so the pressure was off. It didn't have to worry about ending the entire story. It just had to be an extravagant battle, and I think it did that job very well. As always, let me know in the comments what you thought about the episode, about the Our War Game moment, about Omegamon's return, about Devimon's save, and of course, your thoughts in general going into the finale. I've obviously enjoyed the journey myself. Its ups and downs were there, of course, and I'll have a comprehensive review of the whole thing later this fall when the show is completely wrapped up. So again, if you're interested in Digimon conversations on YouTube, please consider subscribing so you get all that post-series discussion, and so that you're the first one to see my new video when the finale comes out next week and we do our review. Thanks so much for watching. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you in the next video.